This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We're going to welcome to the show today Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And Terry Battcher.
Hiya, kids. Hiya.
And Harriet Suchet. Or not. That's okay.
Okay.
There you are.
My phone again.
Okay. Last week.
Lost the connection.
Please. Last week we left off talking about Christine Mileage, which we had kind of gone down, and we were talking about whether or not there was actually spermatozoa found in the vagina and rectum of this little girl in regards to the Oakland County child killers. And we did get some information. Terry had sent me over some FOIA files that he had found in regards to Christine. And of course, the indication there. Do you want to read that, Terry, or do you want me to read that?
The short answer is there was none found.
Correct. And I thought it was interesting that they'd stated, but they had 4 slides. And so 2 were male and 2 were female. So is this all 4 children? This is actually March 7th of 1977. So technically speaking, Timothy King has not been killed yet, correct? Let me go to my next.
So
okay.
3 children, I imagine.
So let's see. 4 slides identified as 2 are labeled anal smears, 2 vaginal smears. Well, if it's 2 vaginal, so they're looking at the 2 girls at this point, right?
1 girl, I think. Just Mihalich, I believe.
Oh, it is just Mihalich. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. We did have a YouTube comment from an individual named Kenneth Taylor 3500. He said Zodiac had to be a cop psyop.
Cop psyop.
I think I understand the psyop part, but why the cop?
Makes sense.
He had affiliations. I think he's saying that because of the fact that the cops were so bungling in their attempts to catch him. So therefore thinking he's one of them, maybe. But I think he had affiliations. I don't think it was the actual cop.
Somehow I feel like if he was a cop, he'd probably be just as unknowing about the acts of a serial killer. I mean, we got to remember they didn't even have the label serial killer back at the time that this stuff was happening. And one of the things they talked about was the link analysis between time frames and proximity, not putting these cases together, because if it was too far apart, they just didn't even consider it. And if the time frame was not within the time frame. But yeah, I do believe that he had more information, more education, and definitely more oh gosh, I'm going to lose the word. It's like Terry B is always saying that these are heavily
premonition.
Well, not the premonition part so much, but heavily researched, stalked, all planned. Yeah. Well, and I don't even think those are the words. Like where, you know, he has inside information, basically. You know, he knows the cops' schedules. He knows, you know, when and where to escape. He knows when and where to abduct. And then he's dumping right out in the open. I mean, it's like catch me if you can type scenario. But I think that he ultimately knows he's not going to get caught.
Diabolically
you
clever.
know, can I interject something? Don't you know
Sure.
the latest rage is that a Vallejo cop is the Zodiac?
No, I haven't heard anything about it.
Stuff. Yeah, that's just my friend called me last night, and I said we get this all the time. That Vallejo cop is not the Zodiac.
Do we have any information on him, like pictures, handwriting, anything like that?
The story is that the stuff that he wrote in his files, which doesn't die because all the files burned. All the files burned in a fire. So they're just claiming that that the words that were misspelled a lot are the same words that Zodiac spelled, and then nothing else is really linking it. But it looks like there's a push. Be aware there's probably going to be a show about a cop named Hoffman, from Vallejo PD. Yeah,
I will look him up.
Hoffman.
I don't think they seem to realize that a majority of the misspellings done by the Zodiac was intentional misspellings, not because he didn't know how to spell the word. So for everybody who says, oh, they misspelled the word like the Zodiac, you guys have to take a look at these letters. So when somebody is writing and the writing is flowing, the letters will have a spacing that is consistent throughout. And when we see a large space before the letter E in a word where a letter E doesn't belong, and another large space after the E where that letter E doesn't belong, it's as if the person needed to take the time and the space to think about how they were going to misspell it, plot that out, and then pick back up and carry on with the word. So when you look, I know we talk a lot about the broken words, the broken syllables of the Zodiac. A broken syllable is definitely different than the breaking of the spaces where the misspellings occur. So we're not looking for somebody who misspells exactly like the Zodiac does. That was him attempting to dumb himself down. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah. Sorry. Two things. Some of the Zodiac Killer documents, he misspelled a word twice differently each time, once correctly, and so he was all over the map on doing that. There was another point I want to make, and I know you don't want to talk about Nuremberg yet, but you're talking about stuff that's really interesting in the area of the Nuremberg. You're talking about cops being intermingled. There's a file there that one of the cops in Detroit gave Nuremberg a couple of pistols, and he wasn't supposed to be doing that. So, but anyway, I'll save the Nuremberg stuff for later. So you're talking about cops and Zodiac and...
Yeah, I just made myself a note. We'll check out this Hoffman character. I'm surprised I haven't gotten calls yet. I usually have I call them my band of thieves, thieving the disinformation from the internet or the news and calling me and texting me almost immediately. They've found the Zodiac.
They're claiming that they're reopening the Zodiac cases because of this. So,
of course they are.
Wait a minute. They should have been calling Nanette Bardo first, the document examiner. It's not like the Vallejo PD does not know that you did document exams. Jack Torrance, we can go on and on, but it's the same old. And I'm expecting to hear something on the History Channel by this fall. So,
well, you know, the interesting factor is that there is more information on Jack than they have on any other single given suspect, whether it be handwriting, location, proof of residency, proximity, the actual training, and the things that we know that Jack went through in the military. The ability to cipher and code, the use of a teletype machine in the Sherry Jo Bates case as far as the paper was concerned. I mean, when you rattle all of this stuff down, you couldn't find a better single-handed suspect for everything that Jack was and who he could be when you compare that to the Zodiac. I mean, if they're going to tell us that this guy misspelled words, but the files are all burnt up so you can't see what he misspelled, or you can't even have his handwriting because the files are burned up, then they're just looking to dissuade you. They're looking to give you disinformation. They want you to they want you to be confused. They want it to be so vast and so deep you won't have the time to go through and actively look to see if each and every single one of these suspects are even possibility. I'll be interested in seeing the picture and his age, because we know that the Zodiac is connected to other crime sprees before and after. And if this person doesn't fit the bill as far as proximity or age is concerned, that's usually the number one reason why I'm able to rule them out.
There's no shortage of
all the way to 1940s on up. They got to fit. Okay. If they don't fit, if he was born 1947, that's not the guy. Anyways.
Right. Yeah.
No,
All right.
no shortage of trolls.
Exactly. And Terry, you have sent us some additional documents in regards to Milich, and you had shown here that she showed a fairly high amount of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Right. And I was wondering if that was enough to put her out. I was wondering if that wasn't enough to put her to sleep too.
Well, of course, I think that's kind of
10%. That's a lot.
So is that how she died?
No, they said, well, her nose was pinched, her mouth was covered, but I'm wondering if she wasn't already passed out and then he did the coup de grace by doing that.
Death by asphyxia. Right.
Yeah. But that last one, I had another document that was fairly interesting. I don't remember which one that was. Which one?
Yeah, it says David was always going hunting, rabbit hunting, but Goodrich can't recall if of David ever bring anything game home. So I guess it looks like they're talking about somebody in particular here.
They're talking about
Norbert
again. Yeah, and
supposedly using a number 2 shotgun shell shot as was used to murder Jill Robinson is what you were stating.
That's the point. Yeah, and this is a 1988 or 89 document. But see, he was retrofit into this stuff. You know, the crime was done 10 years or 9 or 10 years before, and all of a sudden Norberg was dredged up. It ended up being a nothing. But as I read the whole files and I got bleary-eyed reading, there's a lot of them. I changed my mind when I got to this document where it is so parallel to what happened to Jill Robinson, where supposedly this guy is bragging about using number 2, and so it's pertinent to Jill Robinson murder, which we just talked about recently, and that number 2 shot was used, and the other guy is talking to him, supposedly talking to him, is saying, well, that's going to tear your game to pieces or shred it up, at close range, and so, but it's number 2 shot. I mean, you don't use number 2 up close for it's a goose gun. Number 2, you shoot for something that's a long ways away and hope that one BB hits your prey. But you certainly, you certainly don't want to use the whole charge on one rabbit or something. So I think my opinion of that document is they were trying to detract from the truth, and they were painting this Norberg to be something that he wasn't or probably wasn't. But there's more to that Norberg file, and I left a lot of it out because I didn't think you wanted to go down that road. But I thought, well, this is too close to what happened to Jill Robinson. So I thought, well, I better bring this up now because it is timely. And that's kind of why I study this stuff circuitously. I don't follow chronology on a lot of it because of things like that come up,
Did you have something, Nolan?
No.
Okay. So my thought here is if we look back to the Zodiac cases and how Arthur Lee Allen became a suspect in them, I think that they hung just about everything primarily on his Zodiac diver's watch, because the Zodiac theme, the Zodiac symbol, the Zodiac watch that came out during that time frame. So it's almost as if that's just a red herring that they're throwing in the direction to shed suspicion towards somebody else, keeping the cops busy. If they were aware of this guy and maybe this guy was part of the group, who knows, and they wanted him out of the group, they would shed that suspicion on that particular individual.
Yeah.
Also, he spent time in Riverside in the Sherry Joe Bates, which everyone knows is a Zodiac crime, pre-Zodiac. And so he had time down there when she was killed. And also he hunted small animals and skinned them. So he had weapons and knives and things like that. But that's all circumstantial. And we know he's not Zodiac, but
right. He's been cleared just like Chris Bush.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Jack knew him. That's the crazy part in my mind. Mm-hmm. How do you know this guy, Jack? How did you run into this guy?
He knows about him, that's for sure. I got the decoded missives. We done a few where he's saying that Arthur Lee Allen was involved with who took pictures of the death of Marilyn Monroe, and then he makes stamps out of those pictures. So Arthur Lee Allen was, in the end, not really a saint, but he didn't kill Darlene Ferrin, and he's definitely not the Zodiac. He doesn't even look like him. His hand, we know, the prints don't match nothing.
Yeah.
But he was not he was not a good guy, but
One other thing
I think he took. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was going to say one other thing about Norberg. Another file.
No. We're not to Norberg yet. Please, you already
Oh,
said you were done with Norberg till we
I
get
wanted
there.
to give you something pertinent about. You've got another file of him, and it's going to.
Yes, we're going to get to Norberg.
A BMF, a bad
we're going to get.
effer.
We're going to get to the Norberg stuff, which is where I placed it in the summary of this entire event. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, Jack made the statement when Arthur Lee Allen became a suspect and was on a news or a press release in regards to him being a suspect. Jack pointed him out and stated that was the nice man who gave me a ride home from Lake Berryessa. So there is and the connectivity there. I mean, for Dennis to even remember that he knew and had received a ride from Arthur Lee Allen suggests that there was an explicit relationship there between the two. Now, I'm sure Jack probably would not have gone as far as to say, hey, he's in cahoots with me or he's been doing this, that, or the other. But he'd drop a subtle hint like he gave me a ride home from Lake Berryessa, giving you an indication that he knew exactly who that person was.
Well, one important thing, though, Nanette, that I have to interject is that Norberg is all things Mahiri.
No. Hold on. Terry.
So
Terry, I'm never going to be able to move on, and we need to keep Norberg where Norberg is. When we get to the suspects, we'll discuss that. But I got to keep going. I'm only on slide 3 at this point.
Just a quick point. I just want to make quick.
March 16th, 1977, we have our final victim of the Oakland County child murders. It was Timothy King who went missing. He was taken from a convenience store. I want to remind everybody that all the way back to Sherry Jo Bates, and I think even back in Black Dahlia, we can find that these victims are being taken from convenience stores, from pay phones, and this happens to be exactly one of the places that one of the Oakland County child killers victims were abducted. So he was at a convenience store at Hunter and Maple, which I thought Maple was interesting because we have Maple heavily involved in one of the Zodiac communications as it pertains to San Francisco and his murdering of Paul Stein. And this was in Livonia County, in Livonia, Wayne County. The convenience store abduction is, like I said, with many of our other victims, and even the suspect himself talked about it in communications. Hunter and Maple Jack is a hunter, and Maple Street was the original stop was supposed to be the original stop for Paul Stein, but we know he ended up on Cherry in Washington.
Something like that, yeah.
So we also see that Hunter White. George Hunter White is also a handler for MK Ultra and the Midnight Mystery stuff, and Maple Street used by Zodiac when sending messages to the group. We have lots of the streets that are tree-named streets throughout these locations. He was found on March 22nd, 1976, so that would be approximately 6 days being held. Body was found at a dead-end street on Bruce Street off of Telegraph. So here we have Telegraph matching back with MK Ultra, Telegraph being one of the safe houses in San Francisco with the MK Ultra. So sometimes I do think that he's specifically planning out these locations on purpose. So Bruce and Telegraph in San Francisco. Well, and his cause of death was what's that?
I'm just saying it's
also a Telegraph in Berkeley
ahead of time, and it's all code. So he's trying to get a message out.
Maybe Telegraph was Jack's actual place in Berkeley. Maybe I have that wrong. I do have the locations for the MK Ultra safe houses, and there were 2. And maybe I need to look back now and see if Telegraph was actually where Jack was in Berkeley. But I do remember what you're saying, and Berkeley was one of the locations that Jack lived in when he came back from Japan, where I believe he started the MK Ultra program. And at that time, he was literally within about 8 to 14 miles of any one of these safe houses.
Well, quick note, because George Hunter White was involved in the San Francisco safe houses and also the New York safe houses for MK Ultra and CIA purposes. But I just found out there's a biography of George Hunter White written by Altabelli, the same guy that wrote about Frank Olson. So I'm going to buy that book next.
Nice. Yes, Terry.
One point about Tim King. It is the most sophisticated of all the crimes that
I think we're going to get into that. You're usually one step ahead. I'm just trying to make it through the briefing, and then we'll go in. I have all your documents and all your information that's in there as well. So cause of death is asphyxiation, just like Mihalich, right? Body showed signs of anal dilation or a sexual assault. He was wearing a light blue warm-up suit. He had been fed fried chicken before his death, so he's being cared for. He's being fed, and I think somebody had said that was one of his favorite foods. Mother proclaims return of her son so she can give him his favorite meal of KFC. So she did a press release saying this, and then, of course, he is fed chicken right before his death. There's both a blue gremlin.
Security.
What's that? It shows he's watching the news.
Security.
Well, or it shows he's watching the news to feed him that particular food right before killing him so that it could come up in his autopsy. Shows that he's watching very closely as to what's going on.
Chicken and corn.
Okay, whatever it is, chicken. The information I got is chicken. Both a blue gremlin with a white hockey stripe and a 1973 Pontiac Le Mans two-door coupe were seen by eyewitnesses, although we are going to show you some documents from Terry B that says there were actually 3 male suspects, and I think that included 3 cars. We'll see. I read a little bit about it. The license plate was said to have a 222 in it, which 222 is my number. I was kind of shocked to see that. Right? Family member of Timothy returned to the store looking for him the night he went missing and claims that the blue gremlin was still in the parking lot when they went back. So it's likely the blue gremlin was never really attached to this abduction. If the family member, after Timothy King had been abducted, if the family member went back to the convenience store and that blue gremlin was still there, it was likely not part of this caper.
Yeah, you can rule it out easily. Yeah.
It was an intentional ploy by the cops to say blue gremlin. It was not for real. They were trying to cover for who they really thought what car was involved. It was witnessed. It was witnessed.
Well, and I attempted to reach out to Barry King. I ended up speaking with Catherine Broad. We had some discussions.
He's been dead for a few years now.
No, I know. I'm saying this is back in 2009.
Oh, okay.
2009 to 2013, when I was putting all of this stuff together, I did have a conversation with Catherine Broad. We did talk in regards to the similarities between the Dr. Danto letter, which I hadn't seen the secret witness one yet. So I know that you've probably passed on my thoughts in regards to that handwriting to her. But we know that she's still kind of focusing on what you said, Chris Bush.
She's not, that, and she just, pedophilia is in her mind more than understanding that this was 4 intentional murders, and this is something way more or other than pedophilia.
Well, you got to think about the people who are capable of getting away with these human trafficking women.
Again, a secondary cause.
Can I finish?
Sorry.
You have to remember that these individuals that are part of these type of things, we're going to talk about a pedophilia ring that they heavily looked at in regards to this case. The individuals that are hopping to these islands, say with Epstein or the one over here in Michigan, these are the elite. These are very rich people. This is a very secretive operation. So I wouldn't put it past these individuals also being the ones that are in the charge of the money and in charge of anything else that may control another person's life, which is what this appears to be. I think that Harriet has found in her solves that this was a hit at Barry King, correct?
Oh, definitely. And there's even so much more. This is going to be the revelations coming out of even, I don't know if you were going to do the OCCK 1977 Danto letter, but
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. It's just, this is going to upset a lot of people and make a lot of people.
Okay. I need you guys to focus with me right now and stay where we're at.
Yes,
all I wanted to know was Barry King the intention of the hit, and you had found that he was part of what during Vietnam?
Something that has to do with passage to freedom, getting communists and other people from North Vietnam to South Vietnam. And something's going on there, and Nixon is not happy with what he's probably knew about 20 years earlier, and it's now coming to fruition under Ford. So it's pretty bad.
She's confirming things that I've been stating for a few years now, that he was the target.
We've known that for years. I picked him out early on because of his prominence and because of his he was a really good attorney evidently back there. So maybe he was bucking the system against these people, and the way to control the mob controlled you after the assassination of JFK. It was easier to control you through the death of your own family members than it was to kill you, because it brought too much heat, too much suspicion to literally assassinate somebody like Barry King. They would have been looked at. People would have been looked at. What's that?
Barry was the father?
Yes, Barry King.
Only one that was the actual father. That's something you need to point out, Nanette.
What's that?
You need to point out the fact that the other 3 victims were by namesake. In other words, the parents were not. In other words, with each one of those victims, you'll find that it wasn't the target was not the father. It was somebody with the same last name. So that way that they couldn't be connected directly to whatever operation they were pulling on Stebbins, for example, or Mihalich or Robinson. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
With Robinson, it's not as clear, but with the other 2, Harriet Solve does.
Okay.
Really
we have not gotten to Harriet Solve yet.
It all comes as it comes, you know.
These are some additional pictures that are involved with the Timothy King. So it's giving you the location of where the 8 Mile Road is, Gill Road. This is the drugstore, evidently, that he was last seen in, but I think they saw him in the back end of it, right? Not in the front end.
Right.
And then, of course, the location of the drop-off. So this is the last murder in Oakland County child murder series, and this is the last that Carol Settlemeyer's family ever saw of her again. So evidently in 1977, she went missing for almost a good 30 years until they located, 20 years. I think it was more like 20 years.
We talk about Settlemeyer. We saw her again. Who's the her?
Well, because we're going to talk about the receipts that are found locating around the time of these children's abductions and killings she happened to have inside of her phone book. So, but this at the same time, this is the same time period that Carol Settlemeyer actually up and leaves Michigan, goes to South Lake Tahoe in California. So she's like swapping spots, I guess, if you will. But she just picks up, moves, and doesn't say a word to any of her family members, which is extremely odd for somebody to do.
Yep.
Let's see. And it's also circa subsequently, she moves to South Lake Tahoe when Jack is moving to Texas. Yet Nevada is where Jack has originally come from when he actually ends up over in Minnesota. And there's no talk of her kids, though. I did not hear any information as to where her children were, if they left with her. I also wondered, could this have been Jane? I mean, I look back at the Christmas card that was written, and there were some similarities between the handwriting in this phone book and the Christmas card that was written in regards to Donna Lass. So there's still some examinations that have to go on. Evidently, there was indication that there were lots of women running from this particular area into hiding in California. So one of those references are the Ketty Cabin murders. She is also a female who had ran with her kids from the Michigan area and ends up in California in the Quincy area, where her and almost her entire family are killed basically at that point in time. All right, so this is information that was sent by Catherine Broad, which is Timothy's sister. It's some of the things that she has indicated that she has discovered throughout her research and the FOIL files. It has, interesting that says Z, but Affiant has reviewed police reports prepared by Bloomfield Township Officer Richard McNamee on November 20th of 1978, is thereby informed of the following. On November 28th, 1978, Officer McNamee was dispatched to 3310 Morningview Terrace to check on the welfare of Christopher Bush. So this goes into the Bush stuff. Maybe I'll pass this up and place this down a little bit lower so we can get through some things, because again, we all believe she focuses in on Bush. So a lot of this information is going to be in regards to him. Now, so we have this one particular newspaper article that lists all 7 of the children. And then we have what they refer to as being the Oakland County child killings, which they refer to just these 4 as if the other 3 are not involved. We have since found out that 2 of these victims were a suspect was apprehended and convicted of those actual murders. And then
the ones you just circled.
What's that?
You just circled the 2.
No, only you are really watching my mouse go right now. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Yes, these Cynthia Cadu and Sheila Schrock were found to have been killed by different suspects who were apprehended and convicted of those crimes. Jane Louise Allen, I believe, is the only one that did not come up as a solved murder. And I think interesting that Allen being her last name, and then we have the secret witness in the Dr. Danto letter saying he is also named Allen. So I don't know how all of that will play in, or if it's just a super coincidence. So, but they, at this particular point in time, they kept talking about 7 children. So, oh, that does bring us to the letter from Dr. Danto. We are going to make that letter today, guys.
Oh yeah, guys, hang on to your butts.
So on the envelope, and now I have pretty much a retyped version of it, and it says on the envelope was typed first this message: most very important, most urgent, please. So we do get this sense of importance and urgency, which is, something that the Zodiac did or like to label the outside of his envelopes with. And this is actually sent to Dr. Danto. It says, I'm desperate and nearly gone crazy and haven't got no place left to turn. I'm going to commit suicide if you can't help me. Please don't give up the killer to the police. You must help me, as there is no one else I can't turn to. This is for real. I know who the killer is. I live with him and I am his slave. So now we've got the slave reference. Just
say something. Stop you for a moment.
No. I need to read
the other document is accurate.
I need to, Terry.
This document is not accurate.
What document is not accurate?
The one you're reading from is not accurate.
How is that? Do you have a version that you claim is accurate?
Yeah, I sent you a version, and it's got 8s in it and things like that.
This has 8s in it. This has 8s in it.
Yeah, but this one's
it's one of the things. It's one of the things that I mention in here is the 8s used for apostrophe, which is identical to the Dear Draft Board letters. Okay, let me just read it.
Copies of the original because we have them.
I don't know where that original is then, Terry.
I sent it to you. You should have got it. I have several different copies. I've annotated.
I have not received any of these versions from you, Terry, and this isn't the time to have this discussion.
I sent them to you. I sent them to several other people.
I'm telling you, I have not received them, and this is a waste of minutes on the pod. This is a waste of minute on the podcasts. I mean, really.
Just do this one and get to the other one if it exists at another time. Let's move forward.
Exactly.
Go for it.
I think the context and the words in this is still the same. I live with him. I just said somebody else retyped this. So in case you missed that in the beginning, Terry, that caused
I heard that in the beginning. I heard that somebody. I think that they missed some of the stuff, the nuances. Go ahead. Just never mind. Go. You're wasting time.
I am?
I'm wasting time, I guess.
I live with him. I am his slave. He whips me and beats me all the time, and he will kill me if he finds out that I have written this letter. I have been with him in his car when we go out looking for boys, but I swear I have never been with him when he picks up the ones he killed. But I am in. So I think that a lot of ways he's attempted to dumb down the handwriting, so it's going to sound a little complicated. I'm going to try and read it as best as possible, but I am in it so deep. I am just as guilty to the law as he is. I stayed with them right here.
Guilty.
Yeah. But anyways, keep going.
Guilty.
Stop. Okay, but I'm reading it for the context. The misspellings are not really important. I just want to get through reading the letter. It's already a complicated read because they've manipulated the language in it.
It
in our apartment during the day while he is working. That makes me just as guilty. And no one can hear them as they gagged all the time. You know, he brings them in stuffed in clothes hamper. No one here knows the differences. You keep saying Oakland County, not true. He has delivery route in Oakland and Birmingham places, but we live in Detroit. You want to know people in this building, primps and hookers and fags, you name it. Like on Gremlin, he had it, sure, Gremlin, until Last Boy, but no one stops him in Detroit. He junk it out in Ohio to never be found ever. I tell you what makes him do it, Vietnam. We there together, Frank and me. So he's calling this guy Frank. Oh, Frank is not his real name. I call him that here. Name screw up your mind too. Tell you something else. He killed lots of little kids, then with medals for it. Burn them to death, bomb them with napalm. It's real beautiful there, Doc. He wants the rich people, like people in Birmingham, to suffer like all of us suffered, to get nothing back for what we did for our out country. He's not a monster like you think. He really loves children, especially that little girl, for 3 weeks, not doing it because he hates children, but doing it because he hates everybody else out there. And this be his way to get even and get back at everybody. But I cannot do it anymore. He says he won't, but I just know he is going to kill some more. I swear I had no idea he going to kill that first little boy, the one with the blonde colored hair. I shouldn't. Mind you, this is where the number 8 is. That is used as an apostrophe instead of the actual apostrophe. Ever, never helped, but trapped too late, helped him stay uncaught. I'm just as guilty as he is. I can't go on like this. I feel like I die. I feel like I to die. I will turn him in if you will swear to help me. I don't want any of reward. I am so afraid if I turn him in, I be killed or due forever to jail for what? So something I didn't want to or didn't start. If you be a real doctor, you must help me. If you promise, and what really promise, that you not punish me like you call it immunity, I'm meeting with you this Sunday night. I swear, I tell you all of it. Everything I have to tell someone, Please, please, please not print this in paper. He, Frank, kill me. I am his slave and he owns me like whatever he wants. Almost killed me once. I be only one alive. Know it him. Nobody else know. I so scared all the time. Policemen come to door. Never happen. He say we never be caught, but I am scared to die. I be guilty too. I not be call you a raid police trace all your calls back to here. But if you will only please help me and promise me not to go to jail in writing, I tell you all of it, everything, and it all be over. I never want it to be like this with the little children dead. If you will help me, please, there be no other. There be no other hope. You tell me it be all right with code in Sunday papers. Code. So we've got code again. The Sunday news free press. You do like other letter you write on front page of papers this Sunday. It be to say Weather Bureau says trees bloom in 3 weeks. I know you get my letter and understand. It mean I can trust you. I set up meeting with you. No more little children's die. Please help me, please. I feel so bad like garbage, not deserve to live anymore. Maybe I kill self first. Must get out of this some way. Please help me. I signed Alan. Now, let's go back and talk about the nuances of this particular letter.
Let's not on this one because it's faulty.
I have to leave. Good luck, guys.
Thank you, Nolan.
Oh, good luck to you, Nolan, too.
All right, so let's go back here. So,
missing too many nuances.
What nuances?
Well, it said, go back to the second page there with understand. It actually, that one he wrote, they did write, copy correctly. The word understand was actually spelled as unders and then DNA, which I think is a direct and obvious hint. Okay, it's intentional. Guilty was intentional.
Okay, so I'll get to
guilty.
Guilty as we get to.
It wasn't beautiful. Okay. It said be cautival. It's
Okay.
you need the original copy.
I read
it.
it. I read it like normal words, not like misspellings. I'm not
it's a
here to
faulty
discuss
copy.
I'm not here to
You
discuss the
need the original
misspellings.
to work with. Is
Yeah.
the point. Harriet would not have been able to solve it with this copy.
This is what I sent her.
The
No,
one with the red line?
No, this is what I sent her.
this is what you sent her. But
Yes.
she didn't send the one I sent to you then, because I know for certain I sent it. There's no question. Actually, I sent it redundantly. I believe I sent it more than once.
I've not received one.
Well, we'll look into that mystery. I don't want to waste any of your time. So go ahead.
All right, so let's talk about some of the things it's talking about. He's going to commit suicide. We've heard this several times in the Zodiac communications. Can't help me, which is one of the Melvin Belli letters from the Zodiac. Please help, please help. I did notice that there's a lot of repeating of the words in here. So when we look at Harriet solves and we see that Jack is repetitively saying the same word 2 and 3 times, that is occurring in this letter as well. Correct, Harriet? Like sometimes he's repeating the word like he's shouting it almost.
Yeah, this was screaming stenographic code. It was easy to do. But anyways, keep going.
Well, and then we have the slave reference. So we know that is Zodiac 101. And then we see here, I underlined it, never, never, never been with him. So we're seeing the repetitive words. Let's see, picks the ones he kills, here, right here, gagged all the time, brings them up in a clothes hamper. So everybody needs to remember when Jack left South Lake Tahoe, he had been a truck mechanic for the South Lake Tahoe Linen Company, in which case laundry bags would come into play, and it would be a great way to, carry. They'd have to knock these kids out, though, I would think, to carry them up in a clothes hamper, because I would think that kid would be yelling and screaming inside of that thing.
Probably not how they were secreted.
Yeah, no, this may be a complete, again,
gigantic put on. The whole thing's a put on, really.
Right. So we've got Detroit, and my reference there was GMAC and his keychain. The gremlin, we now know, was still in the parking lot after family members went searching for Timothy King. So likely not something that was involved with this particular kidnapping. But again, we see in one statement, he spells gremlin correctly. And the next one, he's spelling it incorrectly, just like with guilty and the word jilty. One line, he's spelling it incorrectly. The next line, he's showing that he knows exactly how to spell it. So I look at a lot of these misspellings as intentional misspellings.
Exactly.
Well, of course. And gremlin, he's grimming. This is a grim situation. Gremlin. Grim situation. See? Go ahead.
So nobody stops him in Detroit. So one time he spells Detroit with a lowercase letter. The next time he spells it properly with a capital letter. There's also, he's attempting to make it sound as though his first language is not English. But I find that there's syntax and there's linguistics in here that is very much so pointing to the fact that he knows English very well. And some of the words that he actually knows and that he's using is definitely going to be cause for concern, because most people who don't have English as the first language wouldn't know these words or how to spell them correctly.
Just wait until you hear who they're going after. They didn't speak English quite well and became custodians, Nazis.
Well, this particular line gives me reason to have pause, and that is, tell you something else. He killed lots of little kids then with medals for it, burned them to death, bombed them with napalm. It's real beautiful there, Doc. I wanted to bring that up because we actually have a message from Denny Terrence, who, while he was in Vietnam, sent a letter back to Jack stating it's real beautiful here. You'd love it. It's hunting season all year round. So to hear another person say it's real beautiful there, Doc, just absolutely blows my mind, because that was far too close for home and far more of a coincidence than anyone could imagine as it pertains to what we think Jack and Denny may even have been a part of with him, or the fact that anybody would call something like Vietnam beautiful.
It's real be cautiful. Read that carefully. It doesn't say
I know it doesn't. I'm not focusing on that right this yet. I'm just making comparisons.
That's the point.
Terry, you don't have to be here if you can't handle this. I'm sick of arguing with you today.
Because, you know what?
Okay, thank you.
You told me
Thank
to
you.
get down.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Juan, cut that off. Juan, cut that off. Thank you. Get nothing back for what he did for our country. This is the premise, I believe, for yourselves, Harriet, which is that he is screaming he's not getting paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's screaming he's not getting paid. He's screaming that he needs a remedy. He's screaming that the government has, altered his brain and he needs help.
Yeah, so he's working and he's needing help at the same time. So whenever you're ready, I will read that solve. Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. I'm going back down just the things that are consistent with what we know out of those messages. And I wasn't really trying to focus on any type of misspellings. I can see that they're misspelled. I'm just reading them for what it's worth. And what it's worth right now, it's real beautiful there, Doc. That's not a statement anybody said in regards to Vietnam. It wasn't beautiful. He hates children, but doing it because he hates everybody. He's going to kill some more. So there's that more statement that we saw with more or next with the Zodiac. The shouldn't, we already talked about, use the number 8 instead of an apostrophe in order to create the word, which we saw that occurring in the Dear Draft Board letters. I will turn him in if you will swear to help me. And he also indicates that he's going to turn him in on a Sunday night and at a bar, no less. And it says, please, please, please not print this in the paper, which is just the opposite of what we had seen happening with all of the Zodiac stuff. He definitely wanted it. Definitely wanted it to be printed versus this one saying, please don't print, which is kind of just the opposite. He said, we never be caught. And that's exactly what the Zodiac claimed. He wanted to be responded by code, which again is a Zodiac thing, and the news and free press, which again is Zodiac. Maybe I kill myself first. So again, he refers back to committing suicide. And then that actually brings us to your solve. I do have some things on the screen, but I'm sure you're not going to be able to read that. Actually, we're down to 1 minute. And thanks to all of that mess by Terry, it seems that we did not make it through near as much because he wouldn't allow me to run the program. I'm sorry, Harriet, we're going to have to do this on a pre-record on Tuesday. I believe it is that we chose.
I'm ready.
All right. So Tuesday at 12. Tuesday at 12 noon our time, we'll be doing a pre-record. We're going to pick up from this and move on from that.
Oh, that's great. Yep, I'm ready.
Perfect. Well, I am sorry, you guys. What a shit show just to make that, like, when somebody else wants to control the narrative of the podcast that you're running and wants to tell you how you should run it and wants to argue with you about what you want to talk about, he would have been given an ample amount of time to discuss his opinion had he let me even begin to finish what it was that I was doing. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you for being here. Actually, I think, well, I don't know. We're running over. It says 48.3. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we leave, Harriet?
Oh, just thank you for this opportunity to work the OCCK cases. This is opening up so many directions and what Jack is doing and who he's working for at that time. So it's going to be great and a wonderful, but some people are going to be very angry also at the same time. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
Oh,